So here we are then. It's part of the new lunchtime show, Lunchtime Chinwag, which I want to kind of do as a occasional show. I want to try and do it as at least once a week. I did maybe twice. It sort of depend on availability, etc. But yeah, it's more of something to sit and talk about things that are happening at the moment. Obviously, being today as well, being the fact that West Ham are playing, of course, Wolves tonight in a game. I mean, I really want to know what the feeling is at the moment going into this one as a general consensus, because I'm finding it really hard going into this Wolves game. I don't really know what to expect from it, and I don't really know what I want from it, which is a really weird way to be thinking as a West Ham fan, going to watch West Ham play and etc. But they're not knowing what I want from the game. And the reason I say that is because if West Ham beat Wolves tonight, then what? Then what happens? Do we then? Does the reset button get hit again on Lopetegui? Do they go, right? Okay, we're going to give you 2 more games, and then what? Then we lose them one of those games, and then he's got 1 more game to save his job. I hate this game by game basis. I really hate it. Really do. So we're going to talk about that, talk about tonight, and obviously talk about Mikel Antonio, and talk about the manager situation in general, because it's obviously a running topic. We're constantly talking about Lopetegui and his future. But the way the club have handled this is just absolutely shocking. But yeah, anyway, good afternoon, all of you there. Got Bowen Lounge saying good afternoon. Have good afternoon to you. Yeah, look, this is a huge game, I think, for West Ham and for Wolves, in particular the head coaches and managers, isn't it? Gary O'Neill, it's El Sacchio, isn't it? They're labelling it as, which, let's be honest, we've had a fair few of them already this season. And I'm struggling to think of what's going to occur here and how this is going to pan out. I feel like the way that West Ham have handled this Lopetegui situation, it's on them, actually. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling more annoyed at the football club now than I am at Lopetegui. In fact, I'm actually feeling really sorry for him. Looking at Lopetegui in that press conference, heading, for this game, which I think was on Friday, he just looks a broken soul, like absolutely battered from this job. I'm stunned. I'm actually stunned by how badly we've handled this and put him in this scenario. Look, bearing in mind, I'm really not defending Lopetegui here. I'm not saying that I think he's doing a good job. I'm far from it. I've made my mind up on him in terms of a West Ham head coach, manager, whatever. I want him gone. I think he's absolutely useless. But and that's no disrespect to him. I know that he's going through a few problems at the moment, Lopetegui, in his personal life, but I'm just talking about him as a West Ham head coach. I've not been impressed at all. I think his man management's abysmal. I think his tactics are awful. And I'm struggling to see how on earth he got the job at West Ham. But, well, we know why he got the job, let's be honest. They can try and spin it that he was a brilliant, apparently a really good presentation he put on. Well, I mean, I'd love to have seen this presentation, because I don't understand a word he says. Every time he speaks, I'm watching him thinking, like, I genuinely don't know what he's banging on about. So I'm very, very worried about him being our head coach. I think he will be gone, but I don't like the way the club are handling it. They're just lacking this decisive model. I don't buy as well, anyway, if this, what the club are trying to spin, that it was unanimous, that the board said, we had this meeting and we all agreed he deserves 1 more game. I don't buy that. I'm pretty confident that had Graham Potter or whoever it may well have been, Sal would have said, yeah, I'm happy to take that job. Give me a 6-month contract. I think they'd have been in. I'm sure of it. I do not buy the fact that that the club wanted to keep him. I feel like because they couldn't get a deal done, they've just opted to once again not make a decision on him and go, I'll tell you what, let's just wait. And they've spun it that it's a 1 game thing. But what's the point, right, of giving a guy 1 game to save his job and letting him know it, letting the media know it, let the fans know it, the players never. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And you've got to feel for him. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine how awful that must feel? Walking into a room, when you're trying to lead a team and all of them know that you're likely to be sacked, that this is going to be your last game. It's just so wrong. The way the club have handled this has been absolutely horrific. And it kind of, as I say, it worries me tonight. I'm worried. I'm going into a West Ham game worried about what happens if we win. I mean, that's not good. That's not a good feeling to have. And West Ham, and that's on David Sullivan. That's on the club for the way that they've handled this whole situation. It's really bad. I'd like to know what the general feeling is at the moment in terms of Lopetegui and how we're all feeling about that one. Also going into this game, we've got Bowling Lounge as well. Come back to Loppy's a dead man walking. Don't see a way back for him. A win here and there ain't going to do it. I agree. I don't see the point of it. I don't understand what the point is on this game by game thing. As I say, so we win. We beat Wolves tonight, which is, I think odds are that we are going to. I don't, I'm not confident at all. But I can imagine we probably will, just because I've seen Wolves play. I mean, don't get me wrong. They could easily beat us as well. But let's just say West Ham win, yeah. Then what happens then? What happens tomorrow then? So they're going to give Lopetegui another game? Well, we'll see how you get the next one then. See how you go against Bournemouth. Oh, you lost that game. Oh, hang on. You then got the next game to prove yourself. I just can't stand it. And the draw, I don't know what that does. I really don't. I don't know what a draw would mean. I imagine would mean losing his job. I mean, and a loss would be a certain loss. I mean, losing his job. I mean, I've never ever wanted West Ham to lose the game. And I never will say that I want West Ham to lose the game. But when sometimes you're in this predicament of how bad it is, a part of you is leaning that way, isn't it? It kind of, you feel a little bit like, well, maybe is that for the greater good? If West Ham lose tonight, and West Ham have to act to make the change. But then I'm also very fearful of actually the football side of things and this season of where we're going. This is William. So William Young has said, I think they have given him the West Ham game, waiting for someone to come in. Yeah, I kind of understand what you're saying, but then at the same time, William, it's like, well, why didn't they just sack him anyway? If you're negotiating with a guy because you know that you're going to replace the head coach you've got, why not just do it? Why not just go, right, release some job, put Kevin Keane in charge or Mark Noble, someone for this game, and say, look, and be honest with the fans that we're in conversations with a few new head coaches. We're trying to work out who we're going to go with, and we will then be decisive. We'll get someone in as right for this club. What's the point in dragging this out of Lopetegui? It just seems cruel on him, doesn't it, really? But I do agree with you. I do feel that there is that kind of strategy at play. Right, here we go. Oh, we've got quite a few here from Damien. So let me just see. I can work. What best thing to do with that money? Should we go to get rid of the world-class manager now down? Let's have a look here. So I thought the best thing to do with that money would be to get a world-class manager now down and the squad we have and bring some order into place. It's difficult to answer that. I mean, I'm fearful of West Ham. When you say about strategizing and how we do, I don't feel, Damien, we don't do that at West Ham, do we? We don't seem a well-oiled machine at all when it comes to decision making, how effective we are, how we get on with things. We don't seem like a club that's capable of planning ahead. We were very well aware in terms of not us as fans, but also the club ownership of David Moyes leaving. They were very aware of that was coming. They had enough time to prepare for this. And this is what we got, a really disjointed system at play. We've got a head coach, right? That's a defensive head coach trying to work alongside a director of football, or whatever you want to call him, technical director, and Tim Steidten that wants to play a certain brand of football. But Tim Steidten's not able to pick his own head coach because Sullivan's picking him because he's doing the bargain bucket thing again. It's so disjointed. A part of me just feels like, well, if we're going to do that, then we might as well get rid of Steidten then. Get rid of Tim Steidten and get rid of this whole director of football setup, because if you can't do it one way or the other, you know what I mean? You either have a director of football that is in control of the football matters, or you don't have one and you have a manager that's picking the players to the owners, and this is the one I want, and they go and get it done. A part of me feels like, why don't we just go back to that? Because this old director of football model doesn't work for West Ham if we're not going to let him do his job properly. It's just a total mess, really, isn't it? Let's be honest. But yeah, I'm absolutely flabbergasted about how bad things are. I really am. Oh dear, here we go. We'll try and get some comments up on here. So we've got here. Yeah, William's saying as well. I agree, Mark. Put Noble and take time to get the right man. I do think that's the right decision. If that's all they're doing, if all they're going to do is scurrying around looking for potential head coaches, then go and get the right person, spend your time getting it, and in the meantime, let's have someone that loves the football club, that knows what they're doing, and who's got respect to the fans, respect to the players, and then we can then move forward. That's what they need to be doing. But I just don't trust West Ham. That's the problem. I'm really worried about it. What's the thoughts, by the way, on Graham Potter from everyone? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm leaning a bit more towards it, actually. Not necessarily saying he's the saving grace and he was the top of my list. Certainly far from it. But I feel like I'm talking about right now where we are today, who's available, who we're going to get in. Because you've got to bear in mind as well, as much as we want to admit, people saying, we're going to get Michael Carrick, that could be an option. I do think West Ham have looked at him, but West Ham won't pay the compensation. We just know that David Sullivan won't do that. He'll see Carrick as too much of a gamble. I'm pretty certain of it. I really do. That's what I'm worried about. And a part of me is just thinking about who we've got available that we can go for realistically. And I'm wondering whether Potter wouldn't be a bad something to come in, to be honest with you. And don't get me wrong, as I say, he's not top of my list, but he's got to be better than what we've got. Do you know what I mean? He's got to be better than what we want. Oh, I'm getting slated here. Anyone saying want Potter needs their head checked? I'm not saying I wouldn't want Potter. Oh, right, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, this is what I'm saying. I was a bit concerned about the Potter one. I was a little bit worried originally. I was a bit unsure, but I feel for him a little bit what happened at Chelsea. I think that sort of knocked his reputation a fair bit. And let's be honest, that was a real circus at that point. They were bringing in players constantly. It was all a bit of a chaotic mess. And I do feel like he walked into a bit of a nightmare scenario there. And don't get me wrong, I feel like he probably inherited something similar at West Ham, a bit of a chaotic mess in terms of how we're structured. But in terms of the football side of it, I quite liked Potter's football. I liked his philosophy. I liked the way Brighton played under him. Obviously, of course, he had that director of football model, so he's had the head coach role. He's been used to that. And I do wonder how certain players will play under Potter and his style. You know, you think of the likes of Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta, those sort of players that are quite creative. I think you're going to have a manager there that's going to enable these players to flourish more. And as I say, I just don't see him how can he be any better than what we've got? And I know it sounds horrible, but at least we would also bloody understand him. That would help. It'd be nice to actually hear a manager understand what he's talking about. Because I ain't got a clue what Lopetegui's banging on about. I mean, Christ, he looks like he's just fallen out of a bin. You know what I mean? And we've been sleeping in a bloody skip for the last week. He looks horrendous in terms of stress levels. And then, you know, I can't understand what he's saying. He never answers the question clearly. I'm actually leaning more towards Potter as the days are going on, which I didn't think I would be. I think it's because the options have been starting to become limited. It's interesting to see how West Ham have changed their stance, though, on Potter. But yeah, so here we go. Avron got slippers back in. Potter is the yes man. Potter, the man who will toe the party line. Potter, the pleaser. No ambition again. I don't know if it's. I know what you're saying in terms of ambition, but this isn't really about ambition. I don't think at the moment, is it? I think this is more now a rescue mission, trying to save our season. Because our hands are tied. Forget the ambition bit anyway, because we've got an owner that doesn't play compensation. That's the lack of ambition, that West Ham aren't going out to go and get the best head coach for us, regardless of how much they cost. Like, we're going to go and get that guy. That's what Aston Villa did. That's what a lot of other clubs do, but West Ham don't do that. That's where the ambition is. So I'm more thinking it for, right, what have we got to play with here? I think actually Potter wouldn't be a bad shout. For sure. Absolutely, William. For sure. We have a great foundation over him, a great coaching team. We have a circus. That is true. That is true, Aldi. Yeah, that's the worry. Is what he's inheriting. What he is inheriting, though, which is one positive, though. He's inheriting a very highly talented squad in terms of individuals. So, you know, it's not as if he comes into a side that you're thinking, well, this is basically like a championship side and trying to keep us up. You know, there's a bit of a difference here. He's got a side, really. You can look at it on paper and go, this team should be comfortably in the top half of the Premier League, really. That's what I'm thinking more along the lines of. And I would rather us get him in now on a shorter-term deal with a view that, look, if you do well, you can earn that longer-term contract. I think that's what they're trying to do. As far as I understand it, I think what I've heard lately is that what the negotiation is, they're going to give him a longer-term contract initially, say a 2-year deal, but there'll be a get-out this summer for West Ham. So we've got an escape clause if we feel that it's not worked out. And that might be the way of getting it done. But it's a sad time, isn't it? Let's be honest. Do you know what's really strange? I I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if can I do this on here? Let me have a look. See if I share my screen. I think I can. The Premier League table. Let me see if this works. Hang on. Sure. Should be able to see it. Right, you should be able to see that, hopefully. So the Premier League table, I can't believe how tight it is. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, how on earth have we got if we win tonight, we're 1 point behind Manchester United. 1 point. I mean, that's ridiculous. 2 points if we win tonight behind Newcastle and Tottenham. I mean, crying out loud. I mean, I know things have been bad for us, but bloody hell, I mean, that is pretty shocking, isn't it? I didn't realise it was that tight. I mean, bloody hell, remarkable, really, considering what a weird season this has been. Like, really weird season so far. But yeah, it's depressing, though, isn't it? It's depressing going into a game and worrying about the result. Can I get some scores quickly? What you think genuinely as well? Like, not silly. Like, I mean, what you genuinely think the score is going to be? I think it's got draw written all over it tonight. To be honest, I think it's going to. I've got 1-1. I've gone for, but it's hard to say, isn't it? Because it's weird. Because I imagine both teams are probably thinking the same. Like, this is perfect for us. Perfect fixture. You know, Lopetegui couldn't have a better fixture than this. Playing Wolves that just got battered 4-0 at Everton. Do you know what I mean? In absolute terrible form. And then you've got West Ham, who are going to be thinking the same, Wolves thinking the same about West Ham, or we're about to play a team that are all over the shop. Fans are turning and on the board, on the manager. So it's going to be, I do feel like it's a really strange game, which is why I think it's going to be a drab, defensive-y kind of horrible night. I can't see it being a good game. A lot of draws coming in, 0-0, 2-2. That's from Tony Phillips. It's going to be 2-2. I'm going for 1-1. I agree, Damien. I'm totally with you. Win, lose or draw, he needs to go. I totally agree. But I'm worried about winning. Do you know what I mean? I'm worried about it. I genuinely, part of me thinks like, obviously I want West Ham to win. Naturally, I'm a West Ham fan. I want us to win a game because I'm just saying, looking at that league table, you're thinking, bloody hell, we win tonight. We're 2 points behind Tottenham. 1 point behind Man United. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? Considering the fact it gives me a bit of hope for the season. But then I'm worried about what the club are going to do. I'm worried that the club will then backtrack and go, all right, we don't need to get another guy in. We'll stick with Lopetegui a bit longer. Do you know what I mean? You can sense it straight away. Got 1-1 coming here. 3-1 West Ham. Avram Grant slip. There we go. Antonio's accident will galvanise the team, inspire a performance, and the fans get kicked down the road. Yeah, well. I'm interested. Let's talk about Antonio quickly. Really impressed with and quite touched really with some of the comments that came through on the last video we did. Obviously did the preview for the game, talked about Antonio at the beginning of it, after what has been such a horrible time as being a West Ham fan. Of course, Antonio is such a big character, and a big player for us, so it really did mean a lot. But I think we need to get onto the serious side of it as well in terms of football, because this is a really big problem for us. Again, we've lost now one of our key players, regardless of Antonio's age and all that kind of stuff, and whether he's past his peak and that's not. We rely on Antonio a lot. He is a player that we've relied on a hell of a lot, and I do worry now without him, because we're not going to have him for the rest of the season, obviously, and we may not have him playing for us again. We don't know the extent of these injuries yet. It's obviously going to force West Ham's hand in the transfer market. But again, do you trust West Ham? Do you trust the club to go out there and get the striker that we need? Well, we've proven we can't. Really worried about that. Is anyone wants to comment on that as well? But bring us up when we talk about Antonio. Any players that you can think that come to mind realistically that we can go and get in January? Because we're going to need to get this sorted out. Because as you say, yeah, Ben Bigger said it's a big miss. It is, but it's huge. It's a real big loss. That is. I tell you, I'm very, very worried about it. Because as much as my concerns were obviously and still are obviously Antonio and his health, etc., my attention's starting to move as well to the football side of things now. And you're thinking, well, what are we going to do here? This is a big, big problem. Regardless of Antonio, as I say, he's not a 25 goal striker. We know that, but he's an important player for West Ham, a vitally important player. And I am getting to a point of I'm starting to get very concerned. John Duran's popping up a bit. I mean, honestly, and that's shambles, and an absolute shambles how we've handled that. Fucking hell, unbelievable. Aldi's sent a nice message there regarding Antonio. I'm a little bit concerned about the striker situation. Evan Ferguson has been put forward as Avram Grant slipper. Pop Evan Ferguson, get John Duran. He's not happy at Villa and wants that in January. I don't think that'll happen now. West Ham ain't going to spend big money anyway in January. We haven't got the money to anyway, so we're not going to be spending big money. It's going to be loans. I think Evan Ferguson. Look, if we can get Evan Ferguson on loan, that'd be fantastic. My concern of him is injury, but I think for this season that would be the one. I think that would be a kind of. And it's a bit of a statement, wouldn't it? If West Ham was to bring in someone like that, young player, I think he's only just turned 20, bring him into West Ham, that would be a real big coup for the rest of the summer. I'll tell you what, Scott's just put up a comment about Kudus. I really want him to try that tonight. You know he fucking won't. You just know he won't. I'm sure Fulkrug's going to start. I'm sure of that. But I agree. Kudus up front for me would be absolutely... I'd like to see how that would look. That's certainly a route I'd like to go down when it comes to this. So it's a real tricky situation, isn't it, with Antonio and how we're going to play it. Jonathan David, yeah, I think that'll be another one that'd be quite interesting if we can get that one done. But I'm just, we've been linked with so many of these bloody strikers. I'm just not confident. I'm just not confident at all. Must be able to get him over the line. Really not. There's that Middlesbrough striker. I can't think of his name. If anyone can remind me top of his head, I know that we were quite keen. Again, the thing is though, you got to remember if we're going to bring a striker in January, it's got to be a striker that replaces Antonio now. It can't be. We can't have Antonio and another type of striker. We now need to go and get a striker that fits the mold of Antonio. So that's another one we need to think about. Yeah, Scott said, David is an absolute made for us. I'll take it you means Jonathan David there. And obviously, yeah, good shout from Avram Grant Slipper. He turned around and said about Rory Delap from Ipswich. Yeah, he'd be a great player for us. He's been a great player. I mean, obviously scored against us early in the season. Really impressed with him. If they go down, it's just not going to be easy for us this season. I'm getting a bit concerned about it. I think the only chance we've really got of real quality that's available is Evan Ferguson. I think that's probably the only more likely one we can get over the line. But I just feel there's been so much competition for him as well. You know, not many clubs are going to sit back, are they, and let us go and get him. There's going to be a hell of a lot if he's available for loan, which we understand that he is. So it's a bit of a mess. So there we are. Then this is a tough old bloody night tonight. I don't know what to expect. I really don't. I'm getting quite concerned about it because I just don't. I've no idea, obviously, in terms of West Ham's result, how we're going to play, but I'm also quite concerned over the outcome of this. I want Lopetegui gone. I'm going to be totally honest. I really want him out of the club. I don't rate him at all. He's been such a bad appointment. He's got Avram Grant sort of vibes all over him. You know what I mean? He just seems to be taking his club. I mean, really bad. I don't rate him whatsoever. I mean, even the games we've got points in this season, aside from Newcastle, I've not been impressed with us. I'm very concerned, and I'm worried tonight that because we're playing a team like Wolves that are just so wounded and have been so vulnerable and so poor, that we're just going to have enough just to get over the line, get a result, and then I'm concerned about what that then does to us for the rest of the season. Well, certainly for the foreseeable. So I'm concerned West Ham will see it as an opportunity to kick the can even further down the road, which is really worried. So, yeah. So just quick, before we wrap this up, David's saying he thinks we're going to park the bus. I don't think he can die. I think he's got to go for it, isn't he? He's got to try and get the win. I mean, he knows his job's on the line, but can you matter? I've got a feeling it's going to be an absolute shambles of a season. I really do. Darren's added we do need to go and get a new striker in January. Yeah, absolutely, Darren, we do. But the problem is, who is it going to be? And with West Ham, we've already got a horrendous record of getting managers, and now we haven't got Antonio to lean on. We haven't got that crutch that we've been so used to now, where we go, okay, things haven't worked out with this guy, but we still got Antonio who's always going to put in a shift. I'm really worried about it. I've got to be honest. We're now expecting our striker to step up. I mean, the only positive is that we've got Fulkrug back from injury. I mean, but how long is that going to last? We know he's injury prone. Look, it's going to be an interesting night. It's going to be an interesting week. It's been a weird period for West Ham. Obviously, a crappy season so far, but it's hard to see where the positivity is going to come from at the moment. I just want to see West Ham make a change when it comes to head coach. And with that in mind, if it means we're going to win tonight, and that's going to delay that, then that worries me. I hope he's going to go regardless of the scoreline tonight. But I'll always deep down want West Ham to win. I can't ever go into a game hoping we lose. But yeah, if we win, I'll be pleased that we get the result, but worried in the back of my mind. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to all of you, and thank you so much for chipping in. It really does help, and it's lovely. And we'll make more of this more of a regular thing. I'll start working out a way of getting it more organised, so it's more prepared. So you'll go, oh yeah, that's the day that we do this. I'd like to make it a regular. It's more likely to be a Monday lunchtime every week. So I'll once I get that confirmed, I'll do that sort of later in the week. But yeah, look, let's hope we get a result tonight. I'm certainly not. I'm not optimistic, as you probably tell. I'm quite worried about it. And let's just see what this circus brings this week. Come on, you Irons.